Amen, amen. You may be seated if you're able to be seated. I am so excited that you are here with us today, that you braved the storm. I got kind of quiet, but you braved the storm and you made it. And I'm thankful that you're here with us today. And I want to welcome you to week 1, round 1 of our brand new series called Undisputed. That's another good time to get loud. You should have gotten one of these towels when you walked in. If you did not get one, please put your hand up, and somebody on the staff will get you one. Just leave your hand up, and someone get the man a towel, please. Somebody, quickly. But I'll let you know what these are for in a little bit. There is a lot to get through today because we're laying the foundation as well as taking our first step on this journey. And so if I talk quickly, just yell at me and I'll slow down a little bit for you. If you need me to say something again, say that again. Say that again. I have a bad feeling that we could get stuck there for a while. But for those that are new to this space, my name is Steven, and I have 2 incredible and energetic kids, and along with my beautiful, intelligent, amazing wife, Stephanie, we have the honor and privilege to pastor this amazing, unbelievable, crazy, awesome, mind-blowing, life-giving, multicultural community called Eastgate Church. And I really just want to start here with this question. Are you ready to rumble? Yeah! Well, you sound like you're ready. I thought you would be. I thought you would be. I knew I was in the right place. But if you're not, get ready. Get ready, because you were created to be a contender. None of that, I could have been a contender. No, you were created to be a contender. So don't let people lie to you, and don't believe what you've heard. Christianity is not for cowards. I feel like I need to say that again. Christianity is not for cowards. It's for contenders. There is something that has been wired into our DNA that rises, that is stirred when we see injustice. There is something in us that runs to rescue those that are oppressed. It is in our spiritual DNA to stand against evil that is holding people captive. It is in our DNA to fight through a blizzard to get to church on a Sunday morning. We are created to fight the good fight. Right? Now, here's the thing, though, and that's all good, and I love all that, and I know that's part of who we are, but have you ever found yourself fighting the wrong fight? Hello. I know that I'm not the only one. Have you ever found yourself fighting the wrong fight? And maybe it looks like this. Maybe it looks like fighting the person or not fighting the person you should be fighting. Like, I get myself in situations where I'm so overly stressed out, and then somebody does or says something that completely sets me off, and like a well-adjusted human being, I respond by smiling and stuffing all of my emotions deep down inside, and then passive-aggressively taking it out on those that are closest to me. Like going home and yelling at the kids for just being kids. Why are you playing with that toy? It's a toy. I thought that's what you were supposed to do with it. Or I get short and bothered with Steph, and it's really not her, it's me. No joke, I got a phone call this past week, and it just kind of, it bothered me, and there was the dog Blue sitting on the couch looking at me, and I got angry at Blue. I said, "What are you looking at, Blue?" He just put his head down. And I want you to know I am fully aware of how ridiculous that sounds. But you want to know what's more ridiculous? The fact that we have a habit of finding ourselves fighting God. We have a habit of finding ourselves fighting God. Are we nuts? Like, are we crazy? Like the creator of the universe, the God that knows every thought and intent of our heart, he knows what we're going to do before we do it. He knows the past, the present, the future. He upholds the whole universe by the word of his mouth. We're going to pick a fight with him. But we all do it, right? We tell him he's wrong. You're wrong, God. We've all done it. Like, I love you, Jesus. I really do, but I just want you to know you're wrong. The way that you dealt with this person, wrong. Your timing in this situation is way off. I love you, but you're wrong. You're wrong. Sometimes we fight God because we're fighting the wrong person, but fighting the wrong fight could also look like how sometimes we think we're fighting for God when we're actually fighting against God. How you doing, Northside? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you realize that you thought you were helping God? You thought you were fighting his battle. Righteous warfare, right? Only to find out that what you were doing was actually fighting against God. That all of a sudden your eyes were open and you realized you were on the wrong side of the fight. You don't think it can happen? Ask Paul, the Apostle Paul, when he was Saul, he thought he was doing God's work. And he was killing Christians in the name of God until one day the Lord opened up his eyes and he said, hey, Paul or Saul, you remember me? I'm God, the one that you think that you're serving, but you're actually persecuting me. I don't want to spend too much time here because we still have so much to do, but how many of us think that we're serving God, but we're actually persecuting him? So we can fight the wrong fight by fighting the wrong person, or we can fight the wrong fight by ignorantly fighting the wrong battle. But there's a truth that we cannot escape, whether we're fighting God or we're fighting a dog. And the truth is this, is that when we fight the wrong fight, we can never win. Are you guys with me? Even when we're right, if we fight the wrong fight, we lose. So no matter how hard we try, as long as we're fighting God, I can never find true success in this life. I can never find real satisfaction in a career, in a relationship, in family, in finances, in ministry. I can't build the life that God intended me to build. Am I talking to anybody this morning that is not just interested in going through the motions of life, waking up, doing what you have to do, going to bed and starting it all over again the next day? But is there anybody here that knows that they're alive on purpose and with purpose, and they're interested in building something out of their life? Like, God, I may not have much to offer, but everything that I have, build something in me and build something through me. But as long as we are fighting the wrong battle, fighting the wrong fight, we will never build anything of substance. Psalm 127 says, unless the Lord builds the house, Unless the Lord builds the house, they that labor do so in vain. Now, I need to be clear about this. What the psalmist is not saying is that we sit back, and God puts on the hard hat and shows up and lines up all the studs and screws and runs all the electric, and he does all the work while we sit by. That's not what the psalmist is saying. What he's giving us is the picture of an architect. And what he's saying is that unless we build our house by his design, by his blueprints, his way, we can wake up early and go to bed late at night. We can work and we can sweat and we can toil and we can give it our whole effort. But unless he builds it, unless it's built according to his pattern, we're just wasting our time. Because we will never build, because we can put in the hours and the hard work, and on the surface it can look like successful, but behind the build is a broken system. So I want you to make you aware of this, that you can be busy spending your whole life building something that looks good, but is not God. You can build something that looks good, but it's not God, and if it's not God, he will not pour his blessing on it. I've come to the point in my life where I'm tired of building based on my best. My best thoughts, my best efforts, my best plans. And I've come to the point where all that I care about is seeing his best. That's why over the next 6 weeks, we're going to be spending some time in the book of Malachi. Now, Malachi is the last chapter or the last book of the Old Testament before we have these years of silence and Jesus and John the Baptist show up in the New Testament. But Malachi is not actually the last prophetic book written before the New Testament. Malachi is a contemporary of Ezra and Nehemiah. He comes in on the tail end of the rebuilding and restoration of the city of Jerusalem after the return from Babylon. And so his book is written to a people that have been immersed in seasons and years of restoration and rebuilding. But there's an unfortunate truth, because if we look on the surface, it would look like God's people are very successful. They had rebuilt the walls to the city, but upon further inspection, we see that God never told them to rebuild the walls. What he told them is, my new Jerusalem will be a city without walls. Because I want people to be able to come in, and I don't want there to be any barrier between that who's out there and who's in here. But what we do is we have a good idea that's not a God idea, and we say, let's rebuild the wall the way it used to be. And so on the surface, it looks like it's successful, but it's good and it's not God. What they did was they built a temple. And the word of the Lord would be that the latter glory of this house shall be greater than the former glory. The problem, though, upon further inspection, is that the glory of God never filled that house. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life building something that God won't put his glory on. I don't want to spend the rest of my life building a relationship and building a family, building a ministry, building a church, building a movement that looks good but isn't God. Malachi gives us a unique insight. Why, God? Why didn't you pour your glory on this house, on this temple? He gives us clues as to why we can build something and he won't put his glory on it. The issue was this. The issue is that they were doing everything right, but they were doing it with the wrong heart. They had built the house of the Lord with their hands instead of their heart. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to get up here so you really, really hear it, because for some reason I feel like you hear me better when I'm standing on the speaker than when I do when I'm on the platform. Right? The reason the glory of God never filled the temple was because they built it with their hands and not their heart. They were doing all the right things. They had put all the pieces of worship in the right places, and they had the oil and the fire burning on the altar, and they were reinstating the sacrifices, and they had done everything right on the surface, but their hearts were far from God. Isn't it an amazing thing that you can build something so amazing, so great, so good, and be so comfortable in it, but that you do it in a way that your hands are doing the work, but your heart isn't connected to it. Yeah. I can, on the surface, build what looks like a healthy marriage with my wife by doing certain things, but if my heart is not connected to it, there will never be a bond and unity and blessing of love on our relationship. I can show up to church on a Sunday morning, and I know how to preach the Bible, and I know how to get loud to make you loud, and I know how to move your emotions, but if my heart is not connected to what I'm saying, and my heart isn't being moved by the Holy Spirit, we're building houses made by hands. And he'll never pour his glory on that. Jesus would say it like this. He said, with your lips you worship me, but your heart is far from me. You know how to lift your hands on a Sunday. You tithe, you give, you do all these things that seem right on the surface. You're a part of the dream team, and you go through the motions, but your heart is disconnected from him.
Amen.
So we're going to build houses that hold his glory. Who wants to build a house that can hold his glory? Yeah, good. You don't have to be shy about it. That's the goal. Right? We want to build houses that can hold his glory. If we're going to build houses that can hold his glory, here's what we got to do. We got to stop fighting God. We got to stop fighting God where he's trying to form in our life. He's working on forming us into houses and building something that he can put his glory in it. And so we've got to stop fighting him. Turn to somebody and say, stop fighting where God is forming. As we get ready to start this series, I want to be clear about something, and I want to kind of say sorry but not sorry. You probably thought you came in to this series about Undisputed, about the gloves, and that you were getting ready to fight. Like, well, let's go, let's throw down, let's put up our dukes, and let's start swinging. This is not a series that is a call to battle. This is a series about surrender. This is a series about once and for all finally saying, God, I'm ready to stop fighting you. I'm ready to surrender every part of my life because I don't want to build a house with my hands that your glory will never fill. I want to build my house with my heart that worships you, that loves you, that is fully surrendered to you. Is anybody with me on this? Come on. This is a series about surrender. And that's where Malachi comes in. There are 6 specific disputes, arguments that God has with his people in Malachi. And just so you know the rhythm of the way that it's going to flow is that God shows up and he'll say, hey, guys, here. One of the most famous ones we know is you're robbing me and your tithe and your offering. How are we robbing you, God? Or he says, you're robbing me, right? And they say, how are we robbing you? And he says, your tithe and your offering. And so what happens, there's this back and forth where God begins to confront them in certain areas and challenge them on certain things and say, hey, listen, your attitude, your behavior, and what's going on is way off. And they say, well, how is it way off? Look at all the good things that we're doing. And then God starts to talk. And how many know that God gets the last word? And when God gets the last word, we realize that he is undisputed. He's never lost a battle. Never lost an argument and never will. So over these next 6 weeks, we're going to look at some arguments that God is having with his people that maybe we can relate to and make a decision that once and for all we're going to throw in the towel, that we are going to surrender and stop fighting God. You ready? I said, you ready? Yeah. See, you had no idea what you were getting yourself into when you saw Undisputed. You were ready for a fight. Now you're ready. Like, what, Pastor, I have no idea what's happening anymore. And that's a good thing. Because when Jesus speaks, we should be confused. We should be uncomfortable, right? And if we're not really listening. Yeah, so now that I've broken all the preaching rules and taken about 25 minutes to get to the content, even though I thought it was good, here is round one. Malachi chapter 1 and verse 1. It says a message. Somebody say a message. Another word or the root word, the understanding of a message is a burden. And anybody that's ever had to speak in front of people, especially the word of the Lord, understand that it's a burden. After the 11 a.m., I can actually breathe and sleep and rest and feel good because the last 4 days, this has been a burden. God gave Malachi a burden. It was a burden for two reasons. One was because the weight of what he was saying, he was getting ready to call out and challenge all these people that were living in a delusion that their life was successful, functional. And Malachi is about to blow up their spot and say, hey, listen, God's got news for you. You ain't all that. And so there's a weight to confronting in conflict. But there was also a burden in the understanding that not everybody was going to hear what he had to say. And can I share with you a little bit of my experience and my heart? One of the most difficult, heartbreaking, frustrating things is to spend time in prayer, to hear the word of the Lord, to work on presenting it in the best possible way, to ask the Holy Spirit to partner with you, and you partner with him and doing the work, knowing that the majority of people that hear the word will not listen to it. So there was this burden. It was a burden. It was God's word to Israel through Malachi. And here's where he starts. Verse 2, God said, I love you. Close your eyes for 1 second. If you've never heard the voice of your Father before, speak this over you. I just want you to hear his voice. Hear it through my words. Hear it through hear it past my language and my voice, and hear the voice of your Father. Just speak, I love you. I love you. But you reply, how have you loved us? I love you, but how have you loved us? This is God's answer. Look at history. Now I wish, and we're going to come back to this, but I wish I had a whole 7 weeks to just talk about that statement. Look at history. Look at history, but he said, look at history, God's answer. Look at how differently I've treated you, Jacob, from Esau. I love Jacob and I hated Esau. I reduced pretentious Esau, to a molehill and turned his whole country into a ghost town. What is amazing to me about God as he's getting ready to enter into this time of conflict, of correction, of conviction, he starts it all by saying these words, I love you. I feel like we have a lot to learn from God about how to handle conflict. Because if it was us, if it was me, we handle conflict like Frank Costanza. We show up and say, I got a lot of problems with you people. And here's my list. Here's everything that you've done that I don't like. Right? And we go down our list of grievances. He comes in and he says, listen, I love you. Everything, he's laying a foundation and he's laying the framework for everything that's about to follow. He says, you can't understand my correction until you first understand that I love you. You can't understand the why of why I'm challenging you and convicting you. You'll never understand it unless you have the framework set in your life, that you see it through the frame of his love. I never understood it when I was a kid, because my dad, every time when I was getting in trouble, he would say, Stephen, this is going to hurt me way more than it hurts you. And I said, you're a liar. You're going to be able to sit comfortably for the next hour. Me, on the other hand, it's not going to be good. How can this possibly hurt you more than it hurts me? But now that I'm a parent, now that I'm an adult and I have my own kids, I understand, because I have a framework to see it through. I never want to see my kids in pain, but because I love them, I'll allow them to go through pain. Because the pain is producing something. Because those that we love, we discipline. God said he corrects those that he loves. And he said, every branch that belongs to me, I prune it. So I want us to see the difference. You guys still doing good? Yes. I want us to see the difference between pruning and punishment. Because sometimes we perceive pruning to be punishment when it's really not. Punishment is meant to hurt and to destroy. Pruning is meant to bear fruit. So the difference between pruning and punishment is the intent. It can feel the same because both are cutting things away from us. It can feel the same because both are painful. It can feel the same, but God is saying, when I'm cutting things off of your life, when I'm pruning you, it's not to take good things away from you. I know that you're attached to them. I know that they're important to you. I know that you care about them, but I'm not trying to take good things away from you. My intent, because I love you, is to give you something better than what you already have. By starting with, I love you, what he's saying is, I'm about to hit you. But it's going to help you. What he's doing is he's sitting on the bed with his sons and daughters saying, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, but because I love you, I may hit you, but it's going to help you. Amen. Am I preaching to anybody today? I know you don't like it. But for me, this is so foundational. Because maybe more than any other area of my life, I fight him. And I fight the feeling that he loves me. I love you. How can you love me? Do you really love me? I don't see how it's possible, because nobody is more aware of our unworthiness than we are. Amen. Nobody's more aware of how much we don't deserve to be loved. Nobody knows our thoughts. Nobody knows the intent of our heart. Nobody knows our secrets better than us except for him. Yet he's the one that loves me. I just can't accept that. So for me, there is no other place that I fight with God more than the fact that he loves me. While at the same time I am persuaded of the impossibility of building anything of substance without the confidence and assurance in our heart that we are loved by him. I want to say that again. I am persuaded of the impossibility of building anything of substance without the confidence and assurance of first being loved by him. In other words, we can't get to level 1 without first knowing that we are loved. We can't graduate to higher things and better things. It's amazing that they built a temple, they built a city, but none of them believed that they were loved. How sad is it that there are pastors and there are leaders and there are Christians all over the world that will prophesy and heal the sick, save souls, but when they lay their head on the pillow at night can feel unloved and unwanted. Because sometimes the way he loves us doesn't feel like love. And so these questions come, God, how have you loved us? How have you loved us? We just are getting over a global pandemic. Have you seen the numbers on inflation? Have you seen what we went through these past 4 years? Did you see we lost jobs and we lost homes and we lost people and we've been going through pain and suffering? Have you seen my life, God? Have you seen everything that I've gone through? Do you know the tears that I've shed? Do you know the difficulty and the doubts that I've been through? How have you loved us? I think this is a question that needs answering. So I want to spend the rest of our time this morning, if that's all right, showing you how he loves us. Is that okay? I said, is that okay? One more time. Northside, you got to help me out a little bit. Is that okay? Here's how he loves us. Number one, he loves us preferentially. There's something that we read from our text that shows up in the New Testament as well, and I have to be honest with you, it really, really bothers me, and I have a hard time with it because I don't think that it represents the character and person of God very well. It's this idea, and he says this, Jacob have I loved, but Esau I hated. Wait a second. That's not right. How could God be angry and bitter to the point that he would hate somebody? Because the context of it is that before they were even born, they were in their mother's womb. They didn't have a chance to make a decision or develop character or to pray or to do anything that we would consider righteous. So if God can arbitrarily hate Esau, then certainly he can arbitrarily hate me. And so I get stuck on the idea that maybe God doesn't love me like he loves Jacob. Maybe he feels about me the way that he feels about Esau. There's a woman who once said to Charles Spurgeon, who's one of the greatest preachers of all time, he said, Mr. Spurgeon, I can understand why God should say that he hated Esau. And Spurgeon replied, this is not my difficulty, ma'am. My problem, my trouble is to understand how God could have loved Jacob. See, it makes sense that he would reject us. It would make sense that he would push us away. The trouble isn't trying to figure out his issue with Esau, the trouble is trying to figure out, how can he love Jacob? How can he love me? Maybe I feel like this idea kind of changes everything. It flips the whole idea about love on its back. And I think we have to re-examine what love means, because for us, movies and culture and TV and novels and all these things have reinforced the idea that love is an emotion, that love is a feeling. But feelings are fickle. Right? Like sometimes I feel like a nut. And then most of the time I just know I am. But feelings are fickle. There are some times where I want to do what's right, and there are times I don't want to do what's right. There are some times that I want to be nice to people, and there are other times I just don't want to be nice. We had a situation where one of our microphones broke and we sent it away and just need a little button replaced on it, and they sent it back to me with a new button, but the microphone didn't work anymore. So I sent them a message and I said, hey, listen, we sent you a working microphone and we got back a microphone with a new button but doesn't work anymore. And so they said, okay, well, upon further review, we repaired that microphone in error, and so we're going to give you a refund. I said, I don't want a refund. I want a microphone that works. Right? Like, we're a church. We don't have thousands of dollars just throw away for new equipment for no reason. I said, you broke it. And they were fighting back with me, and I'm like, you know what? And I always feel this way. I feel I have to write it. It's in my email. I said, listen, I'm a nice person. I'm a patient person. I had to let them know that this is not my nature. Like, you're pulling this out of me, right? It's like when people honk at you on the road and you're like, why are they honking at me? I'm a nice person. I feel like driving up next to people sometimes, like, don't honk at me. I'm a good guy. Like, I feel like I need to let you know sometimes, like, listen, I'll fight with you, but I need you to know that I'm really a good person. Long story short, they sent us a microphone that works. But we don't always feel like doing what's right. So maybe love is more than a feeling. Maybe love is a decision. Like during a wedding ceremony where the bride and groom are standing there, what they're actually doing is they're vocalizing their love by sharing a commitment to choose the other person. In good times and in bad times, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer, they're not saying, when I feel like it, I'll love you. That's why when people say, I fell out of love with them, I want to say, you don't know what love is. The better way is to say that you got tired of choosing them. So what they're saying is that no matter what comes, no matter what situations, no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in, I am making a covenant to choose you. Right? So I want to see what God was saying with Jacob and Esau in the context of the idea that it's a choice. What he was saying is that I have chosen to be in covenant with Jacob. But Esau didn't receive my approval. Why? Think about that. Didn't mean it wasn't available to him. He didn't receive it. We'll get back to that in a minute. Jacob I have chosen. I made a choice with Jacob. I chose him to be in covenant with him. And I feel like in a culture saturated with the sting of rejection, we need to start celebrating the reality that we have been chosen. Come on. It doesn't matter who didn't pick you. Doesn't matter who didn't pick you. Doesn't matter if you were picked last for the basketball team in gym class. It doesn't matter who forgot you. It doesn't matter who left you out. It doesn't matter who hurt you. It doesn't matter who rejected you. It doesn't matter who neglected you, because the God of all creation has chosen you and called you by name. He knew you before you were even in your mother's womb, and he said, this one is mine. You may feel broken, but I'm on assignment this morning to let you know that you've been chosen. You've been chosen. You did not choose him. You didn't choose him. Sorry. I laugh inside when people said the best choice I ever made was following Jesus. Really? You didn't choose him. He chose you. For some of us, he called us out of families, out of generations, out of our neighbors, out of our coworkers, out of our friend circle. He called us out and chose us to be in covenant with him. Don't know who this is for, but you shouldn't be here right now. And when I say that you shouldn't be here right now, I don't mean that like you put the wrong address into Waze and he took you somewhere you didn't want to go. Like, if that's you, welcome. God bless you. We're so thankful that you're here with us. Make sure you sign a Connect card and we'll be in contact with you. There's no coincidence, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that you should not be alive. There should not be breath in your lungs. The things that you did and the things that you went through, you should not be here, but you're here, alive, walking, and ready to build something for God simply because he chose you. So turn to somebody and say, you are chosen. Turn to somebody else and shake them up a little bit if you have to, and let them know, you are chosen. Now I need you to say it with me like you believe it. Say, I am chosen. Wow, that was good. I think you could do better. Ready? Say, I am chosen. So he loves us preferentially by choosing us. Number two is he loves us unconditionally. Which means he didn't choose you because you met certain criteria. He didn't choose you because you met the right conditions before you ever forgave that person, before you read the Bible, before you prayed, before you joined a church, before you tithed, before you were a part of the dream team, before you were in your mother's womb. He knew you and he chose you. It wasn't by your merits. It wasn't by what you earned, although for some reason we are prone to want to earn things. Does anybody else struggle when you get something that you feel like you don't deserve? Anybody? Or am I just by myself on that one? Like, I feel much better when I do the work and earn something than when something's given to me. I like it, but it's a different kind of feeling. But we take that into our relationship with God. Like, yeah, we know up here that he loves us, but in here we want to earn it. We want to show him how good we are. We want to, give that big offering, and we want to tithe, and we want to serve, and we want to vacuum the sanctuary, and we want to do all these things to show God how worthy we are of his love. So we think like if I serve in the church more, if I open up my home for a link group, if I don't watch this type of movie, or if I stop cursing, then I can be loved. But I need your help on something though. Can you show me in the Bible where it tells us to impress Jesus? Can you show me anywhere in there that it says, earn his love? Can you find it anywhere? Because I've been trying. Or does it just say, come as you are? With all your faults and failures and flaws and mistakes, and receive love. Receive love, not for what you do, but for who you are. He loves us with no condition. This is good news. So this is good news. He loves us with no condition. So this is for somebody right now who's fighting God. This is for somebody that's fighting God and feeling like you have to live up to some arbitrary standard in order to be loved. If I just have to change this, and once I change this, then I'm ready to receive his love. And the problem is that it's a moving target. And once you change this thing, there'll be something else that you have to change before you feel worthy of love. But the reality is this: we do not change in order to be loved. We are loved, and that's why we are changed. The hardest job that we have is receiving. The hardest job. What happened? Jacob, I've chosen. Esau didn't receive my approval. The hardest job we have is receiving, simply saying, God, in my mess, I can receive your love. In my brokenness, I can receive your love. In my pain, I can receive your love. In my doubts, I can receive your love. In my frustrations, I can still receive your love. Even when I'm in my worst place, I can still receive your love, because it's not about meeting criteria. It's about receiving what you've already given me. You want to know what the saddest story of your life could be? Is that you can spend the rest of your days fighting and trying to earn something that's already been given to you. Right? Because until we realize that we are loved unconditionally, we will spend the rest of our lives trying to be good enough to be loved, fighting for what we already have. Stop fighting the wrong fights. Are we good? We got two more, and I'll be quick. We good? He loves us preferentially. He loves us unconditionally. He loves us sovereignly. And let me explain this to you, because I have a fear inside of myself that God is going to find out that we're catfishing him. That one day he's going to see the real us, and when he sees the real us and finds out what we're really about, he's going to be disappointed and change his mind about loving us. Does anybody else feel like that? Anybody, like, God, if you saw the real me, like, maybe you'd be disappointed and you may just change your mind. But I want us to know that there is unconditional love, but the sovereign love of God is conditional. What do you mean by that, Pastor? What I mean is this: God loves us sovereignly, not because of who we are, but because of who he is. The Bible tells us that God is love. He doesn't just do love, he is love. And so the only condition that has to be met for us to be loved is for God to be love. As long as he is love, I am loved. As long as he is loved, you are loved. Are you hearing what I'm saying? As long as the condition of God being love is met, you will always be loved independent of you. He isn't forced to love you. He doesn't have to love you. One of the biggest lies ever told was that God created us because his love was incomplete without somebody to fulfill it by loving them. That is the biggest bunch of baloney I've ever heard. God does not need us. He doesn't need you. You don't add anything to him. You don't take anything away from him. There is nothing that we can do or say or give that will fulfill him any more than he already is. God is perfectly and fully complete without us. Which means that he loves us because he wants to. Not because he has to. He's not wondering like, I really want to make my love complete by, having somebody to love. He's not thinking like that. He's like, I want to love you. And it wasn't this thing where he's got to take you in the deal because he's getting all of humanity. Like if I'm going to die on the cross and redeem humanity and show them that I love them, then I have to take all of humanity. I don't want all of them. I don't want Sharon and I don't want Brian, but I got to take them because they're part of the deal. If it was only you, he would still choose you. If it was only you, he would still want you. But here's the amazing thing. When we deal with other people, like our currency of relational equity is often like this. I will tolerate somebody I need. If you give something to my life that I can't have without you, I may not like you, and I definitely don't love you, but I'll tolerate you because I need you. But we reserve love for the ones that we want. So somebody needs to hear this. God doesn't just tolerate you because he doesn't need you. He loves you because he wants you. So when we feel like we are not enough, I want us to remember that he will always be more than enough. Come on, somebody give God a shout of praise. One more and then we're done. One more and then we're done. Number 4, he loves us preferentially. He loves us unconditionally. He loves us sovereignly. And finally, he loves us enduringly. This is maybe my favorite. He loves us enduringly, which means he doesn't just save us. His love doesn't just save us, it sustains us. It's not a one-time thing, but he loves us continually and consistently. He is faithful even when we are faithless. That's why his instruction was check your history. Did you get everything that you deserved? Yeah, things were tough and things were rough and there were some bad times, but are they as bad as they could have been or should have been? Look back at your history and see my kindness and my mercy in your life. What he was doing is that he was contrasting these two histories between Jacob and Esau because both nations sinned. And both were punished. But Jacob, because of God's love and mercy, was forgiven and restored time after time after time after time after time after time. The psalmist said it like this, and I love it, Psalm 30 verse 5, and we know the second part because it's the one that we quote and we shout all the time. Weeping endures for the night, but joy comes in the morning. But there is a context to why weeping endures for a night and joy comes to the morning, and it's the first part of this verse. It says, for his anger lasts only for a moment. So that's good news for some of us. His anger lasts only for his moment, but his favor endures for a lifetime. There are times in our history where we see, God, I did what was wrong. I rebelled against you. I turned away, and there was momentary anger where you needed to correct my course, but you didn't destroy me. You didn't forsake me. You didn't end it there. You restored my soul. You strengthened me again, and you cleaned me up, and you got me back into the race time after time after time, because your anger lasts for a moment, but your love and your favor endures for a lifetime. Can somebody thank God this morning for his enduring love? Have you ever felt like you're not going to make it? You are. Do you ever feel like this won't last, like things are too good? This won't last. I'm in a good place. I won't last here. Yes, you will. And the reason is this, is because God's grace gives us security. God's grace gives us security because the same God then is the same God now. And the same God now will be the same God in our future. He still does miracles. He will do what he said because he's the same God now that he's always been. I feel like there is somebody right now under the sound of my voice that has been fighting and battling a real fear of your future. Of what it's going to hold, of what it's going to look like. Am I going to be married? Am I going to have a house? Am I going to have the right job? Are all these things going to be put into place? Am I going to fulfill my call of God? What if the pandemic comes back? And what if this happens? There is somebody, if not more people, under the sound of my voice right now that have a real fear for your future. And I've come to declare that it ends today. It ends today. It ends today. Because the God that loved us then is the God that loves us now. And will be the God that loves us in our future. We don't have to fear for our future because we're freely loved by God. Can you say amen? Today is our day to push fear aside and to get our hopes up again. Today is a day to start to dream again. Today is a day to laugh and be joyful about what God is about to do in our lives, what God is about to do in our church, what God is about to do in our family and in our finances and in our community. Now is the time to have faith for our future because we are loved enduringly and endlessly. So today is the day we stop fighting God. God, today is the day that I stop fighting you. And I receive your love in my heart. He loves you. Stop fighting. He loves you. Stop fighting him. Today we stop fighting the fact that we are loved. Everybody should have gotten one of these towels when you came in. Like I shared earlier, this is not a series about fighting. This is a series about surrender. What I want you to do is I want you to save these, not just for the next 6 weeks, but as a reminder going forward. Put them somewhere in your house where you can see them. And just let it be a reminder that I'm throwing in the towel. That I'm living a life of surrender. That God, I'm not fighting you any longer in these areas. I'm surrendering. And what happens when we surrender is we transition from the side of losing to the side of winning. It's counterproductive, it's counterintuitive. How can we win by surrendering? Well, this is the upside down, inside out kingdom. Where you lose to gain, and you die to live, and you surrender to have victory. And so for anybody here this morning that said, Pastor, I've been fighting God. I've been fighting God in my life. I've been fighting the fact that he loves me. I've been feeling so unworthy. And I know it in my head, but I really don't believe it in my heart because I just don't feel good enough to be loved. If that's you, I just want you to lift your hand up and hold this towel real high and say, here I am, God. Today, God, I am stopping the fight. Today, I am laying down my arms. Today, I am surrendering, God. I am no longer fighting you. I am believing and receiving that I am loved I am believing and receiving that I am chosen. I am believing that I am and receiving that I am loved unconditionally. I am believing and receiving that I am wanted, God, and not just tolerated. I am believing and receiving that your love is enduring day by day by day by day. And so today, God, I'm choosing to stop fighting you. And if you want to do this with me, just make sure you get your towel back. Say, God, today I'm throwing in the towel. I surrender. I surrender.